Okay, well, all right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. We know Teresa Real is on her way, so hopefully she gets here any minute. But I'm Edgar Soth. I'm the vice president here at the East Campus, also at Desert Vista Campus, and
Amanda Avens, I serve as Dean of Workforce Development and Lifelong Learning.
so, of course, all of you saw, or a lot of you saw the study session we had, and there are a lot of questions that came up. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is setting up a plan so we can move forward on some things. But before I start that, I just want to share something. Yesterday, I went to the medical assistant graduation, and it was a really nice event because you see these students who've been in this program for a year who have sacrificed a lot, and they've built some momentum with what they've accomplished. So what I love about being at Pima Community College, I've been here for 26 years, and what I love about it is that I think Pima Community College has the leverage to success, or to remove barriers for success, unlike any place else. University of Arizona, NAU, ASU, other programs, you have to actually get accepted into the program, but we take people wherever they're at. And so I think our responsibility, the community, to make sure that we're creating, or we have programs that are going to lead to successful jobs, to good jobs with livable wages, because what we're really doing essentially is we're trying to help our students, whether they're going to transfer to a four-year school, so we got a pathway for a liberal arts or any that type of program, or if they're going to get a credential and get right into work, is where the hope is to get them a job that's going to have a livable wage so they can create a life of meaning and purpose. And some of these students that I saw yesterday, I mean, some of these students, they're going to not just change their current situation, but generationally, they're going to be able to change their situation. So enrollment is important. And you've just want to honor our board chair, Teresa Real, just showed up. Any other board members here? Okay. And then I'll identify some other people, or Amanda could identify some other people as we move on here. So we're going to have an opportunity to discuss some things, but we're going to set the format up first so you know exactly what we're doing and what the purpose and our objectives are for today's meeting. But we're excited about this because I think the one thing I've seen is that we can't operate at the status quo anymore. Things have changed. Back in the day, the professor had all the information, right? Now you've got Professor YouTube, you got Professor Google, they can get information anywhere. So now we're facilitators of information. We got to make sure that we're guiding them the right way. But our programs and what we're doing is important. And the role that all of you serve in this is really important. And we've got to make sure that we do what we need to do to, we have the best programs, they can get credentials and they can get good jobs. And the one thing that I'm excited about is that when you bring a lot of brilliant people in the same room and we have some discussions and talk, we come up with some amazing ideas. So I'm excited about that. And I'm going to turn it over to Amanda. She can tell you a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for taking time on an amazing day. Graduations tonight. Woo-hoo, back at the PCC. We're all so excited to celebrate all of the graduates that have worked so hard for so long tonight. Why Edgar was at medical assistant graduation last night. I was at the fire academy graduation last night. One semester goes from an EMT to a firefighter that had a successful, amazing career to be there for all of us in our time of need. So really exciting times at the end of the semester, and you all are worn out, you're tired, and you're here with smiles and ready to have a great conversation, and I appreciate that. Thank you. So as Edgar talked about, we want to get to the why, and currently right now, why is my not working? So we have some goals for today. We're going to talk about the why. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Okay. Some things that we want to do today. You want to talk about the why. Why do we need to have this conversation? What is that about? Why are we here today? Why do we need to talk about changes to the East Campus? And we want to kick off the planning process, because this is going to be about a planning process that's going to take us several months of working together really closely to really lay out what are some ideas and some options that are possible for bringing PSESI. I'm gonna start calling it public safety because I'm gonna trip over that all day. So public safety, Center of Excellence. And we really want to talk about all the opportunities for input and feedback that you all are going to have throughout this planning process. We want to talk about steering committee representation. And we want to talk about our proposed timeline and really get your feedback and input on the planning process.
I gotta trade mics because it's not going through on the.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to repeat all of that. I think we don't have a whole bunch of people on Zoom anyways right now, so I think we're good to move forward. All right. So again, the big question, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we here? This is a lot on this slide, right? Bad, like I broke every PowerPoint rule on this slide. I know that too. So in 2015, we have an educational master plan. 2018, we have facility master plan. Both of those call for a center of excellence for public safety at the East Campus. We have programs that are geographically not located together, most notably EMT. We have an amazing EMT program that's located right here at East Campus. The paramedic program is located down the street a little bit at 29th Street Coalition. And our law enforcement is here and at the Public Safety Academy run by City of Tucson on Wilmont. And our firefighting training happens all down at the Public Safety Academy on Wilmont. So programs are across the city. There's a lot of challenges with our leased facility. So I think all of you may be aware, the 29th Street Coalition Center is a leased facility, and that's from TUSD. It was an old elementary school, and it's old, and it was built for elementary students. Classrooms are not large to accommodate a large classroom of paramedics, lab spaces, those kind of things. It's really not built for it. You also probably learned at the study session that there's significant HVAC problems there as well too, that have been part of the issue. And we have outgrown our space there. That's why law enforcement has moved from 29th Street to here. And our paramedic program continues to grow as they expand and offer more contract training and open up more upskilling training to our local agencies, that we are pushing at the seams there and don't have continued capacity. And there's others. We have a whole lot of storage out there in modular buildings that are past their lifespan. We have a lot of expensive equipment in storage spaces that really need to be replaced if we're going to continue to use that. And that's just a sampling of the issues that we have at 29th Street. So it's a challenge there. So we need to co-locate programs, as well as we have challenges just staying in the facility that we have. So on May the 10th, at the last Board of Governors meeting, the Board of Governors did approve a couple of things. They approved $1.3 million to put into the HVAC system at 29th Street so that we can continue to use those facilities there, us, public safety, as well as adult basic ed for college and career, our ABEC programs. They also approved $500,000 for us to do this planning process together. And what we're going to do, and you can see it laid out, and what I have here is exactly what was in the board report that the board did approve unanimously, identifying steering committee to act as representatives for each of the stakeholder groups, and then retain space planning, architecture, and engineering services to conduct space programming, because we need those experts to be able to do that for us. And addressed existing space usage, identifying those that may potentially be reduced in size. East Campus is on a large lot. 29th Street Coalition is very landlocked. If you all haven't ever been there or driven by there, I encourage you to do that. It's located next to a Boys and Girls Club, and there is very little room to expand there, including not a lot of parking over there. East Campus, not landlocked. We are on a big plot of land here, which allows us a lot of options as we look about moving forward. And then, of course, everything that we do is with taxpayer money. It is incumbent upon us to be good stewards of our money. I'm a taxpayer, you're a taxpayer. And it's incumbent upon us to be good stewards of that money, which means we need to take the time to look at all of our options. So I want to just take a second right there and pause and see if we have any questions in the audience now or on Zoom. We will have time for question and answer at the end, but I want to take a moment to see if there's any questions now. Senator Mike.
Yeah, go ahead. So, yeah, and I think Mike Lopez, you had to put you just maybe get in line here if you have a question.
So this question might not be a super helpful one. I apologize in advance for that, but it's a question that came to mind as you were going through the information on this slide. So because we are in a large lot with a lot of opportunities for new construction and or renovation, if the statistics and usage data does not support the reduction in size of existing programs, which so far it has not, why are we, how hard are we going to be leaning on evaluating reduction?
So we want to get the data first. Collectively, you may have looked at the data. I don't think the whole group has looked at the data. So that has to happen first, right? Everybody has to look at the data, look at the same data, be confident in that data to make those decisions. So I don't think, I wouldn't put a percentage on it. It really is about doing what is right for the campus. And that may be renovation, that may be brand new construction. If it is brand new construction, we need everybody's input on that too. This is a gorgeous campus. I am not going to pick a favorite campus because that's like picking a favorite child, but this campus is gorgeous. You know, you walk through it, you see javelinas right outside classroom doors, and we want to ensure if we do new construction that it fits with the campus as well too. So that also, we need all of the stakeholder input for that too. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify, did you say that the board approved $1 million for HVAC at
Yes, so $1.3 million to Band-Aid the HVAC system at 29th. New HVAC would have been $6 million.
So is that being done, or has that started, or is there a chance to go back on that?
That is such a great question. I wish it was done already because I can't even tell you how difficult the summers are there. It is approved in next cycle's capital budget, so that won't be available to us until July 1 to be able to start working on that. So, no, it's not a done deal. It is approved, but it's not in the works yet. We don't have the repairs happening right now, but I am fully expecting that is going to move forward.
All right, thank you.
Libby?
If the institute were to be moved here, and I realize you don't have firm plans yet, would it have any impact on the astronomy observatory here at the campus?
That's a great question. That's such a fabulous institution of the East Campus that I can't imagine that we would be making recommendations that would interfere with that. Again, I want to let stakeholders really make recommendations and decide, but I can't imagine that that would be something any of us would want to see. Anything else? Great questions. Thank you. Okay, so now I want to just share with you a little bit more about public safety, just briefly. So public safety is 5 separate programs and disciplines. We have EMT, we have paramedic, we have fire science, law enforcement, and administrative justice studies, also known as criminal justice. That's a transfer degree. And I talked about before about how we're geographically dispersed. We do train the majority of first responders across Southern Arizona. If you're getting pulled over by a cop, hopefully not. If you have somebody responding to a car accident or to your home when you need a paramedic or an EMT, it's highly likely that they were trained at Pima Community College. We have a proud history and tradition of doing that. And we do it really well. Our programs are incredibly high quality with passing rates that surpass state and national averages in the majority of our programs. We're really proud. These are programs that are necessary to our community. So we've been at this Center of Excellence thing for about 6.5 years, working towards building a Center of Excellence. We did some stakeholder visioning sessions shortly before COVID broke out. So we worked with facilities and had an architect firm come in and meet with our internal and external stakeholders. And I want to share with you a couple of the things that came out of that visioning that are needed components for a Center of Excellence. So one is we really identified moving to East Campus has tremendous benefits for us. And that is the use of shared existing spaces and resources here on campus. Things like Faculty Resource Center, your cafe, the library space, all of those things are resources that can be used. At 29th Street Coalition, our students are there for 8 hours a day. They have no opportunity to buy food there. So there's a lot of things that are really going to benefit by being at East Campus. At East Campus, we really need spaces for paramedic, classroom, labs, offices, and storage. Another thing about 29th Street, our teams literally don't have even one office space. They have to use an empty classroom to have private conversations. We also identified really important is a wellness and resilience center. And for all of our instructors who are almost all of them working in the field, as well as our learners trained to being first responders. A simulation and VR center for all programs. We've been incorporating VR into our programs and want to continue to do that. We need a large classroom that accommodates about 50 students for our paramedic program. And another thing that came out that we're looking to have is a classroom for law enforcement and AJS that converts to a mock courtroom, something that also our community could use. Our K-12 partners could use to come in and use a mock courtroom. So those are some of the things that when we are visioning a Center of Excellence, some of the components that have been identified by our stakeholder. And then I'm going to turn it over to Edgar to talk about the East Campus.
Is this one working? Kent, is that one? Can you hear me on Zoom there? Okay, here you go. And then you can, hold on. Okay, so a lot of you know the sculptures we have here, the observatory, library, market space, maker space, learning center, student affairs, Vail High School. And I just want to honor Rayleigh and Patty here. They're from the Vail School District and helping out. And they're actually doubling their program from 35 to 70. So we really appreciate you guys being here on campus. And I went to their ceremony and some of those students are leaving Pima with 36 credit hours when they're graduating high school, which is impressive. And we have one person going to Harvard and also one to MIT Howard. So impressive. And of course, our vet tech program, which is very successful. And I think Andrada has a vet tech program also, right? That they transferred to here. Our IT cyber security, a Center of Excellence, and that has just been booming. And a lot of people are in that. EMT, our science labs that we are using all the time, Gen Eds, AJAC. I mean, that's the other important part of it. One of the things that I shared with the group here when I got to Desert Vista, and one of the reasons I thought coming to East Campus could really work is one of the challenges we have at some of the smaller campuses is that we don't have a full pathway. So our advisors, I know a lot of them are in here, they might not send them to Desert Vista or East Campus because that full pathway isn't there. So they'll send them to downtown campus. They'll send them to West Campus for that full pathway. But we're really working hard with both campuses to make sure that we have that full pathway. Transportation is an issue for a lot of our students. And if we can have a pathway at each campus, at least that first year experience, I think that enrollment's going to grow at that campus. And then as far as logistics, I mean, I don't know as far as what I wanted to say about that. I don't know.
The program is located here.
Oh,
It's
gotcha.
just almost all online now.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and I'm not sure what the next slide
Yeah.
has. Is there another slide there or anything else that you wanted to mention about that?
The important part is, we all want to celebrate what is here at East Campus. I think, does anybody know? I think the campus was built in 1981. Does anybody here know if that's accurate? I see somebody shaking their head. So that's a long history. And this campus really is unique, the way it is built into the desert, and it does serve the local community here. And we really want to, as we're envisioning and planning, we really do want to ensure that all of the great things about East Campus are preserved. That's a really important part of this process.
And one thing, Amanda, if I could jump
Please.
in and I know our board, there was some discussion at one of the last meet, well, not the meeting before, but prior to the one. And they discussed how our efficiency, do we need 5 campuses? What, how are things working? Do we have the number of students to accommodate, to have 5 campuses? So one of the things I think PSCSI coming here will do is that it's going to probably double the size of our enrollment at this campus, which I think is a real positive. And PSCSI being in close proximity to the Vail School District, where a lot of those students whose parents might be in the military, who gravitate towards those type of programs, they're going to be right here at this campus. So I think there's a lot of positives and a lot of collaboration. I mean, there's one thing that we've learned through all this is we're in this together. And if we can figure out ways to accommodate PSCSI with not putting any kind of barriers or limits to our other programs, and then we do need to scale them up. Like Vail, I think we went from 35 students to 70 or 50 to 70, and it probably will continue to grow, right? So we need to continue to scale other programs up as well if we're having success.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edgar. That's so incredibly important. And, this is opportunity as well, too. This is opportunity to think a little bit differently about a campus that was built in 1981. That's 42 years is my math. Where's my math faculty? Or is that right? I know it's just simple subtraction, but in my head, it can be a little difficult. That's a long time ago. There's a lot of things that have changed since then. Maker spaces, high tech, high flex classrooms, so much online and virtual now, but still the tremendous need for spaces where people can connect. And what does that look like to have those spaces where people come and they want to connect and want to spend time with each other and faculty interact with learners? We want to make sure that we nurture that and think of this as an opportunity to think about what could be different in a 42-year-old campus as well. So as we move forward with the planning process, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for input, and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about some of these. So we're going to continue to have town halls. We are going to form a steering committee. It is going to be made up of internal and external stakeholders. We are going to get you, and we'll probably get that in the next couple of days. We're going to establish an email address for our planning process here so that folks can email any ideas, questions, things like that, just as one means of outlet for input and feedback and questions. And then, of course, you can meet with Edgar and myself. We would welcome that and be happy to have those, conversations directly with you all. And then we're really interested in hearing what other ways would work for you other than what we've listed here to get input and feedback from you all.
So our initial plan here is to come up with a plan. So the first step is creating a steering committee. So we're gonna have a place you can sign up to be part of that steering committee. And then the other thing we want to identify is who our stakeholders are. And so we've got a list here. And so maybe we could share that list and talk about, because I know we're missing somebody here and to make sure, but if we had a representative from each area, depending on the area, maybe there's more than one, but at least one person from each area. Are we missing anything here? I know, go ahead. Science division, okay.
We knew we wouldn't have an exhausted list as we went through.
Okay, so we're,
Yep. Resource Center, thank you. Yep. Yes,
yeah, oh.
I can
Well,
repeat it.
actually, for the Zoom people, so I just real quick, I want to honor this gentleman right here. He was my high school principal. So, and you know, one thing, I got to tell you this, and was for Suzanne also, Desardine. He remembered me, he remembered my mom, and I got to just throw this little plug. We won the state championship when he was principal in baseball, and he had just brought me this article that shared with it. So thank you, Mr. Arriaga. He was just an amazing leader, and I always had a high level of respect for him. So sorry, I had to throw that in there. Yeah.
Thank you, Edgar. He's my PR man now. It was easy to being the principal at Tucson High because I had students like Edgar there and they ran the school and I just sat back and enjoyed all the credit they got. So congratulations to your team back then. I'm looking at this internal and external stakeholders. I don't see high school counselors on there. I don't see superintendents, principals of local high schools. I don't see students on there. I strongly believe that if we were to get into this and get to the roots of a lot of our issues, I think we need to start talking to people who are working with young people who are going to suggest where are they going to go in the future. High school counselors, as a high school principal for 3 different high schools, Saguaro, Rincon, and Tucson High, they are incredibly valuable because they're working with these kids on a regular basis. And as I said in the meeting on May the 10th, there's 19,000 students in this community. I don't see one of them here. Where are they? Where's those 19,000 kids? So I guess my concern is I appreciate what's being done and I applaud the efforts. There's nothing, this is all positive. Everything's positive. But let's talk to the people who are going to make it happen. And I'm concerned that I don't see that out there. So that's just my suggestion. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for that. And we did put K-12, including Vail and JTED, not meant to exclude any, but those are 2 big partners. They're a dual enrollment partner and clearly a huge partner here at the campus, but we do mean that more broadly. Adding students to this is really important. Thank you for that.
And the counselors is I think that's going to be key, but we will add that on there. Counselors.
And I think also one of the things that I think about when I hear about you talk about those 19,000 students, I think about the 30 to 40,000 opportunity youth out there, age 16 to 24, not in school and not having a job. That's what happens when they don't see a pathway. And we need to reach all those. We need to reach our adults out in the community that aren't working and going to school too. All of those are incredibly important to the success of our college and the success of our community.
We have our first Zoom question for this hypothetical building. Does the building you envision have to be a 2-story building?
No, it does not. Out of those visioning sessions that I was talking to you about, that was just one possibility that came out of that very preliminary pre-design, pre-planning phase. And so that's why we really need to have, as part of this planning process, those architects and engineers to really see what is possible.
Hi, can I ask a clarifying question? Thank you. What is your timeline for this? I ask because one of the emails we got recently from Phil Burdick says accelerated timeline, which I think is giving a lot of us concern, because I don't think anyone is concerned necessarily about a future where we get more people at East and more services, and that's fantastic. And yes, let's get them out of a building that's not working for them. I think the concern is that there seems to be a rush on, and how much time will there really be for a committee for people to really get genuine input from. from the stakeholders. So if you could clarify for that, I would love that.
Sure, sure. And that's a fabulous question. And I think I'm going to jump ahead to the timeline after we take this question and talk about what we mean by accelerated.
Yeah, this isn't actually a question, it's just a statement because
Mhm.
she brought up the accelerated timeline. And I just wanted to make a public statement of, because we're talking about taxpayer money and things, that this was a process that was supposedly started in 2015, 9 years ago. And this is the first town hall that we're having 9 years later in an accelerated process. Thank you.
And to clarify, the process that was started was really identifying first what's needed in a public safety center of excellence to even figure out where it can go and what makes sense. Because part of that process was to look at, could we stay at 29th? Could we expand at 29th? And we found that that wasn't possible. What we're looking at with the timeline, let me back up from the slide here for a second to talk about accelerated. So it has not had a sense of urgency to it. Part of that is we're building out centers of excellence, kind of one building at a time. There's only so much budget and ability to do new construction and open new centers of excellence at any given point in time. So they've been phased in. So it was not our time yet in that phased in approach. And you can see some of that in some of what the board has approved in the budgets in the past as well. And so accelerated timeframe is due to the continued problems at 29th Street and the HVAC issues. It's really causing us to say, okay, we've really got to figure this out and we really need a plan. Because we also, part of it is then when you have a plan, you can have a budget attached to that. And then when you have a budget attached to it, you've got to figure out where the money comes from. Right now, public safety has $5 million budgeted for the Center of Excellence. We do know that that is not enough money for the square footage that we need. So that's part of this accelerated process. We have to do the planning to know a budget dollar amount. And again, the 29th Street issues are continuing, and we are busting out at the seams there, and we're missing out on potential new expansion enrollment opportunities for that. So that's really what the accelerated timeframe is.
So we have another Zoom question from Nadine. Will the adult ed program also be moved? If it has not been considered, shouldn't we be proactive and look at moving them too?
That's another good question. They are not looking to be moved. Their needs in a facility are very different than public safety needs. Even when you think about the strains on an HVAC system, if we're putting 35 learners in a small classroom and they're moving around and doing labs, that's a different level of HVAC need than 15 students sitting in a ESL class. So it does make a difference on the HVAC system needs. So in that community where the 29th Street Center is, serves a very large refugee population community that relies on the 29th Street Coalition Center. So there are no plans at this time for adult basic ed to move out of there. And it's possible once we get a center of excellence and are able to move out, it could potentially allow them to expand then and serve more learners in that community.
I have two questions for you. The first one is that February town hall, was that next year or this year? This past February?
Coming up, yes. So we'll talk through this slide, sorry. Yes.
Okay. And this is the accelerated that
Yes.
we're talking, okay, just making
Yes.
sure, because I was like, that
Yes.
seems fast. Already. So my actual question that I had before this is more of a comment, I believe, on why this is sitting so funny with a lot of faculty and staff. And as I'm sitting here, I kind of feel it, like I feel the emotions stirring up, and I was trying to really analyze why. And I think the reason is that we all value and appreciate what PSCSI does for Tucson all throughout the community.
We see the need for it. It's a large ticket. What I don't think people feel is the need for the programs that are currently going on. And so I think whatever process is going to go forward, thank you for listing what's here. But like that tech was sharing, if they lose their lab space, they lose their students. Vail would lose their ability to offer those things. So while it's super important that we expand what you have and expand the services to those students, we need to do it in a way where everyone can feel valued. So thank you for including internal stakeholders, but it sounds like there was an internal stakeholder panel at some point before, and I'm not really sure who that was, but I have a feeling it's not the people that were in the room here. So just making sure that those people that are in every program that would be touched are included in that next program. So thank you for opening it up. I just want to make sure that we all value all of our students and really make sure that everyone can be heard, because I think that's where the issue is. It's not that we don't value this or that we don't want this. It's we just want to do it
Yeah.
right. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. 100% agree. Yeah, thank you for that. And I realized that there was a lot of miscommunication and misperception by how the board study session went. What really kind of that was accelerated, that here's some things that we want to share with the board. And it really all was about attempting to give the board good information to be able to make decisions about investment in the HVAC system at 29th Street. It would be natural to me if I were a board member and I was asked to put money into a leased facility for HVAC to say, well, what are your options to move right now? Is that possible? What would that look like? And so we looked at it and it wasn't feasible, because it's not feasible to take science labs offline. But we wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence to look around and say, what square footage would we need immediately? Could we do it? And I see how that comes across. And I really want to convey that we are all together value everything that happens here. And anything new construction or renovation has to accommodate the things that this campus needs. So proposed timeline. This is a discussion point, this discussion slide. So not set in stone. But again, accelerated time frame here so that we can get to a budget, so that we can go back to Chair Rial and her board to then make some decisions about priorities on Center of Excellence and budget. If we don't go through the planning process and they don't have a number, then we aren't going to be able to move forward. We're talking years out already, right? Years out already to do planning process, figure out where the money comes from. Every year we wait for planning, we're waiting another year to put it into effect. So that's really kind of why we're on a little bit of an expedited calendar that we've proposed. So over the summer, we do want to start getting ready. We want to make sure and gather the data from the divisions, from STAR, and work with facilities to get that firm in place to be able to help us understand what is possible or not. Can it be a 1-story? Would it have to be a 2-story? All of those questions. We want to start the committee not in the summer. We felt that it was really important to wait until faculty are back. So we want to start the committee a couple of weeks into the fall semester. Cadence of the committee, how often they'll meet. I'd love to just say monthly, but I really want the committee, and Edgar and I will lead that committee together. I really want that committee to really think about how often do they need to meet. And then again, time frame. Our goal would be to have a list of options in February to present at a town hall. It wouldn't be our first town hall. I want to talk about how often you all want to see town halls. And then we'll refine based on feedback before we present to college leadership and the Board of Governors what those options are.
Yeah, so that town hall, of course, we're gonna have one in February, but we'll have town halls before that, most likely, depending on what our steering committee decides on. If they say they want to have a town hall every month, make sure that we have students involved, make sure we have counselors, make sure we have whoever the stakeholders are involved in those town halls, but we will have more town halls before that February date. If, okay, if the steering committee decides, yeah.
And there is, while that's our goal in our proposed timeline, we, of course, if we need more time, if we have not had the time to do due diligence, if all stakeholders haven't been engaged, if we're still gathering information or the architects are working on something, then we'll push that back. But I was also thinking a little bit about budget season as well, too. Really hopeful that we could get some money for it.
So we have another Zoom question from Kelly O'Keefe. How will we involve students and counselors during the school year?
Yeah, those folks need to be on our stakeholder list and be added to involve those. And what I can see is I would love to see committee representation and then also town halls. So we'll work with Suzanne, and we'll work with the Student Senate to really make sure that we do it in a way that we are accessible to students for feedback. All right. So and I want to go back. I skipped around just a little bit. I want to go back to what we're going to ask the committee to do and talk about that. But I really would like to have feedback and input on the timeline. Michaela, I heard you say February sounds kind of fast. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So February of 24. That'll teach me to not put years on a slide. Okay, then I'm going to go back for a second and talk about, we talked about stakeholders, and you all had some great additions to that. Thank you. And I want to talk about, if I can get to the right slide, what is it that the committee is going to do? Not an exhaustive list, just in general, what it is that we're going to have them work on. We're going to have them do a charter. We're going to start with that. So everybody is on the same page about what we're there for and what we're hoping to achieve. We really want to ask that everybody on the committee is there for not just themselves, but representing a stakeholder group. So that means going back to your stakeholders and sharing with them what is happening on the committee, getting their feedback and input for you to bring back to the committee. So we really want to ask that that committee members are representing their stakeholder groups. Want them to determine a communication plan. That's going to include town halls, and it's going to also include other updates as well. They could be email updates, they could be video updates, but I'd love the committee to work on a communication plan. They're going to review data and determine needs for subcommittees. I just about guarantee that we're going to need some specialized groups to work on things. And so that's where we would want to bring in some additional folks too as well. And of course, we're going to work really closely with facilities and whatever firm they are able to hire to be able to work with us to do that. And we're going to identify a short list, narrow list. I have no preconceived idea of how many options to be on it. The committee will have to, we'll let what the process does show us how many options there will be at the end. But they'll identify a short list of options to then present to the town hall. And then after incorporating that feedback, move on to college leadership and board of governors. Yep.
All right, Nancy. Yeah, go ahead and come.
I want to be clear about this question. Is there any opportunity for an option to be presented to the board and not go through this steering committee? So I guess what I'm asking is, are all options that will be considered those that are coming from this group? Or could another option be proposed by someone else not a part of that process and then have the same weight as something that's gone through this very rigorous input?
Yeah, good question. What I would say to that is, and I think that's a great thing for the committee to discuss at the front end too, right? Have that conversation at the front end, that what that could potentially look like. I would say if that does happen, if there is a proposal, let's just say I'm gonna throw out a scenario. I have a great proposal. Didn't come from the committee, but I have some idea that I think happens to be fabulous. Then I will bring that to the committee. Is there an opportunity that that could advance? What I would tell you is, with Edgar and I leading the committee, if that were to happen in advance, we would do it very transparently and say, this did not get generated from the committee. The committee didn't like this, didn't approve. It was a 20-10 vote, whatever that may be, but do it very transparently with that information. Where did it come from? What did the committee have to say when they reviewed it? And potentially move forward in that way. I don't want to definitively say absolutely not, that would not happen. I prefer not to speak in kind of those extremes, but I can tell you that it would be very transparent on where it came from and what the committee thought about it.
I guess I would be more concerned about a top-down option that gets added on at the last moment after almost a year of incredibly hard, diligent work. And I don't want this to be for nothing. I want to make sure that this process is on.
Well, no, and you asked some very difficult questions, Nancy, but that's true. No, that's
Also,
with our chancellor leaving, with some of the things going on, there's some unknown there.
Okay.
But the one thing I feel really good about, and I'm not just kissing up to our board member here, but I feel really good about our board and how they represent our constituents, how they represent themselves. And if there's anything I've learned from the last few board meetings, is that they are engaged in this community and they're going to do right by our employees here, by our students and our community. So I feel confident about our board. I don't know who our new chancellor is going to be. But yeah, no, that's a great question. And then I think we have one online here.
We do have a Zoom question. This is a clarifying question from Kelly O'Keefe previously. They appreciate your answer. However, they were asking more specifically about the high school counselors and students, since that was brought up by the former high school principal. Or did they misunderstand by chance?
Yeah, I did misunderstand it to mean PIMA counselors and students. So we would work with our K-12 schools, identify what schools, part of it we have to be mindful of realistically is a committee of 150 people is not going to be very effective. So we are going to have to make some choices to keep the main committee not too large. I don't have an exact number in my head. And then use subcommittees and use town halls for additional feedback. So what we likely would do is get some representation of those high school counselors and students, and then use some subcommittees to bring in more individuals.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
if she needs more, please, Kelly, if you need more clarification, let us know on Zoom.
Howdy. I'd just like to I'm working for Jim Dean Craig here. He asked me to just vocalize that, please, that this cannot be just a PSCSI plan. It has to be an EC plan that equally evaluates and strategizes for every area up front and not just as a domino effect. And that's him coming from his hospital bed at the moment.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Feel better, Jim. Please let him know that we're sending thoughts and prayers his way.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Jim said and also what Michaela had mentioned earlier. I feel like there is this atmosphere here where everybody loves this campus, loves their programs, loves what we do, and also wants to encourage the PSCSI learners to come here. I definitely would love to have them here, but that, just like to Edgar's point, would double the enrollment of this college. The conversations need to include the entire campus, just like what Jim was saying. We need to talk about expanding our library services, expanding our cafeteria. That's, by doubling the amount of learners that are going to be here and that emphasis, there has to be an expansion of classes as well, of science classes, of basic education classes. I love the idea of East Campus being a focal point, but that committee needs to almost be two committees. There needs to be like a greater East Campus committee of how we're going to expand everything that already exists in ways that are beneficial to our learners and take into account these stakeholders. But we also have to make sure that we have an atmosphere that's going to be conducive to PSESI, because I love the idea of them being here and having a great environment for public safety. But we also have to make sure that all learners are supported, not just PSESI.
Thank you.
I love it. And then that's the one thing, Amanda, that I think we want to make clear, like, this isn't just about making our PSESI program better. This is about making all of our programs better and more accessible. So I appreciate those words, and we'll make sure to continue to share that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
go ahead. Come on up. And then yeah.
I just want to talk a minute about the vet services.
Mhm.
Thank you for putting us last. We appreciate that. Just a joke.
No particular order, but it is alphabetical, right?
Yeah, I'll take that. Vet services here, the staff is phenomenal. I want to thank them
Mhm.
personally. I'm sorry, I don't like speaking to mics. I want to thank the veteran services here for what they do for us. Every problem a veteran has came to them with, they fixed immediately or showed us how to fix it. I've worked with them there, our vet service area in the closet for us to hang out, kind of in the military term, it sucks. So we hope that you would give us something better for us. The veterans that come in here, they would like something better.
Thank you for bringing that up. And thank you. You said you're a veteran.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Our veteran services is incredibly important across all of our campuses. Absolutely. And I've been in that space. It is not large. And the points about needing to evaluate what is needed now at East Campus, what's needed in the future with expansion is a really important point, and one that we'll talk with Dolores. Thank you so much, Provost, for being here with us today, and with the Chief of Staff who's serving over all of the campuses right now as well, to really I think we need to take another look about how we reevaluate the planning process to ensure that we're looking at all of those things as well too.
And maybe you should ask some veterans to be on the committee,
Mhm.
what things we're looking for when we come
Yep.
to East Campus. Because I go to one of the other campuses and they have a little bit more up to offer
Yeah.
right now.
So just to let you know, I know we got Ken here and we got David Ariano here, and there are some plans for this summer to make some changes with vet services. So that's it. That is in the plan. So.
All right, so for Zoom, Kelly O'Keefe, quoting them. That's great. I completely understand that committees need to be kept to a workable number of members. It would be great to include 1 to 2 high school stakeholders on the committee. However, I believe having the high school population represented at the town halls would improve upon community involvement and buy-in.
Absolutely.
I mean, and the one thing that, when we talk about Pima Community College is we are a college for the community. And the way I think we've been operating these last few years, I think, we've really adjusted to making sure that we're going out to industry, we're going out to community, asking them what they want, what they need, and then us having those programs and those opportunities here. So I think, if you would have looked at Pima 15 years ago, it probably wasn't that way. And I think we've been doing an excellent job asking the industry, what kind of skill set do these students need so that they can walk into a job right away and be successful. But go ahead.
So I'm short. And I'm going to break it. I had a quick question. How long has PSCSI been at 29th Street Coalition?
29th Street Coalition was leased and opened, I believe, 13 years ago, 14. No, it was definitely more than I've been here for 11 years. It happened right before I came. Thank you. Thank you.
So they've been there for a while.
Yeah.
And how much longer is the lease before it ends?
Oh, that's a good question.
So what I understand. from
I
what
think
we're-
Teresa now has a answer.
3
here.
years.
3 years.
Okay, so. Okay,
Good memory. Thank
that's what I
you.
was actually going to confirm with, like,
Mhm.
make sure, because I couldn't remember if it was 3 or 4. I just wanted to clarification on the timeline that we're looking at, if that's also included in it.
Well, and also there is another party there in the building too. So it again is not at this point in time looking to vacate the building.
Right, no, I
Okay.
understand that. I'm just concerned about this one coming here, just looking at what
Gotcha.
we are looking at.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have thoughts. I'm sure everyone's shocked. My other thing I wanted to just bring up is the location of East Campus being pretty much the only thing east of downtown. We have a lot of services, between downtown Desert Vista and west. And the northwest is just up that corridor and not very far. East is really the only thing out this direction. So I really liked what Carla shared about expanding services to make sure that we can bring in those students and serve all those students, and make sure that the space is welcoming so that we can continue to grow as we come out of COVID, as Vail grows and Corona and all these other places around here that are expanding, that we can bring them in and keep them and increase all our enrollment for the whole college. And then the other thing I was going to ask about is making sure that our counselors, I know that there is some feelings that can come up for people with law enforcement around, and some that is comforting, and for some that might not be. So I would want to make sure with our community that it wouldn't deter people from coming. Is there something that would make them more comfortable coming? And is our counseling staff ready? Do they need more people to support whatever might come up from that being on the same campus as everybody else?
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's a great point, Michaela. That leads me to the question about this wellness center that's going to be created. Is that going to be particularly for that program, or is that something that could be open and those kinds of services to the campus at large?
All of that would come out in planning process. Absolutely. That is again visioning for what the Center of Excellence needs. We would do all that through the planning process.
Okay, because I think it just as a comment, I think it would be really wonderful to have something like that, but just working with students every day, I don't think that our counseling services for them are currently up to par. So if we could get more bang for our buck of increasing the counseling services with something that's already coming over.
And just to, and again, the details have not been fleshed out, but typically what we mean in the first responder world for wellness and resilience is a place to rest. They work 24-hour shifts, a place to rest, a place to get some physical activity. The first responders are at danger for a lot of things. Suicide rates are high, horribly, tragically high. And things like cancer, heart attacks, other things due to the nature of their physical activity of their work. And so that's usually what we talk about, not necessarily counseling services. But again, point really well taken about what all of our learners need access to.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right. So Tim, you have a question?
Of these students as they come here, or if they come here. Is there any way of looking at partnering even further with the Clements Center to use their facilities to take care of some of this stuff so that we wouldn't have to build facilities specifically for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at partners, especially ones so close by like that, are absolutely things that we would want to do. Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't know if there's any more questions. I'm a little worried because our pizza's getting cold there and I can't, it's gonna, like, I'm gonna have to eat it all myself if you guys don't help me with it.
So we really just wanted to end with a little bit of details about, okay, so we've started this. How do we continue from here? One, please express interest in the steering committee if that's something that you would like to do.
Doc.
Yep.
To all of you, so you can
Great.
sign up.
Thank you, Edgar. Perfect. And then when your community is formed, if you're not on a committee, communicate with a rep on the committee. We'll make that very transparent, public who's on the committee. So that's a way to give feedback. We're going to have the email address that we'll share with you also as well. Schedule a meeting with us. We're going to be doing town halls as well. And again, please don't hesitate to let us know if you're like, wow, I have a great idea. Here's a way that I think you can get more feedback and more stakeholder input, or you didn't think about this. We'd love to hear that as well too. We want to offer as many opportunities as possible. We need that input. We need that feedback, or we're not going to be able to get to options if we don't have good input and feedback.
I just want to end with this. Thank you for everything and all that you do. I mean, I'm excited about this because I think when we start working on this and we see some of these opportunities and we have a diverse group of people, we're going to come up with some really great ideas. And I think the future is very positive and is very very bright for us. So I'm just excited. Thank you for showing up today. Make sure you grab a couple slices of pizza. Wait, we got one more question here. Go ahead.
Just a quick final question and request. So as has been stated by a lot of people here, this felt sudden because we did not get communication in advance. So what I would really appreciate going forward with this and other endeavors regarding East Campus is that they actually be communicated to East Campus information at large in advance. And that means more than a week, please. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you all so very much. Really appreciate your time. Excited to see everybody at graduation tonight. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Have some pizza and have a great time tonight. Thank you.